3, hit it!
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to today's Caffeine for the Soul. And if you enjoy these little weekly missives, there's a video about the same length as one of these that over on our YouTube channel called Coaching from the Inside Out, Thought versus Thinking, that I think you'll really enjoy. There's a quote from the novelist Saul Bellow. Socrates said the unexamined life is not worth living, but the over-examined life makes you wish you were dead. Given the alternative, I'd rather be living. I remember when I first heard that quote, I just laughed out loud because that was my experience. I had spent so much time doing mindfulness and studying myself and studying my psychology and trying to better myself that I was just so hyper conscious of everything that I thought and did and incredibly judgmental of most of it, that it was difficult for me to do anything. And every now and again, and yes, sometimes it would involve alcohol, but every now and again I would be free of self-consciousness. And it was amazing, and I'd flow, and it often happened when I taught. So I thought, okay, well, clearly teaching is what I'm meant to do. And I at one point literally tried to teach 365 days a year because it was the only time I experienced freedom from self-consciousness. And recently I was teaching in a seminar, and something has changed in my teaching of late. And I am far more unfiltered. I've always been pretty unfiltered, but I am far more unfiltered than I have ever been. And there's an amazing flow that happens with that. But in the midst of that flow, what would happen was I'd suddenly notice just how extreme my flow was and get very self-conscious and kind of shut it down and just kind of go, oh, and I just stop and get serious again. And I was talking to a friend about it, and she said, self-consciousness is just a feeling. And I started to argue with her, and I was like, no, self-consciousness is the result of the process of over-examining your life and yourself, and I could hear myself. I could hear my intellect rev up. And I've kind of learned over the years that when my intellect revs up, my IQ goes down. And I heard again what she'd said. Self-consciousness is just a feeling. And I know that there's no such thing as a solution to a feeling. There's nothing you need to do about a feeling. They come and go with thought, because we live in the feeling of our thinking, not the feeling of the real world, not the feeling of our circumstances. And there was something about that simple realization. Oh, if self-consciousness is just another feeling, no different to sadness or fear or joy or confusion or boredom, then I can feel it without having to do anything about it. I can just feel it as part of the flow of feeling as I carry on and do or don't do whatever I'm doing or not doing. And from the very next day, I noticed that even though that feeling of self-consciousness would come up, it was just a feeling. And so it did, like all the other feelings that come up when I'm flowing with whatever I'm doing. So I kind of felt it and carried on. And I realized that I had been the one taking myself out of flow. Flow is our natural state. We're born free. We're made to flow. But we have a lot of reasons why we don't allow ourselves to flow. And for me, self-consciousness, and for a lot of people I know, self-consciousness is one of the main ones. It's, it manifests. People go, oh, I'm shy. Well, there's a real direct connection between the identity of shyness and the feeling of self-consciousness. And if self-consciousness is just a feeling, and you realize there's no such thing as a solution to a feeling, then there's nothing you need to do about it. And it can't and won't get in the way of your natural flow. Now, I want to talk about one other aspect of self-consciousness, and if I was drawing it on a flip chart, I would make I'd probably have the self-consciousness as we've been talking about it with a small s, and then I'd probably put a big S for self-consciousness, and capital S self-consciousness. I used to say big S self-consciousness, and people thought I was saying big S self-consciousness. Just capital S self-consciousness is our awareness of who we are at core, of who we are beyond any of our thoughts about who we aren't and who we should be. It's who we are beyond our psychology, beyond our ego, or even underneath our ego. It's just our nature. And that the more we are capital S self-conscious, the more alive we feel, the more connected to life we feel, because we are made of life. And capital S self-consciousness is a feeling too. But it's a feeling that will take you places. It's a feeling that not only is unlikely to take you out of the game, it's a feeling of being so expansive that the game really feels game-like. There's a wonderful quote from the poet Walt Whitman. And he said, "Do I contradict myself? Very well then. I contradict myself. I am vast. I contain multitudes." And that self, with a capital S, our true self, our true identity, our true nature, who you are when you're not trying to be somebody. That's one of the most beautiful things I know to become conscious of. And that, far from taking you out of flow, expands your flow throughout every area of your life. Have fun, learn heaps, happy exploring, and I'll talk with you soon.